conference will now be recorded.
Pledge of allegiance will be the first order of business. If you would. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of
America,
to the republic which stands one nation under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next order of business is the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second it.
Okay, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, stands voted unanimously. Next order of business would be discussion and action, approval of the director's report. Is there a motion to approve same?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Are there any questions, comments that either of you gentlemen have? Or is there anything, Rick or Tony or Neil, that you want to mention? Secondly.
No, other than that, we're here to answer any questions.
Okay. Patrick, Joel?
A couple of quick questions, just looking for some high-level responses. I do note that we continue to look for replacements for staffing. Are you comfortable with the pool of candidates, or are we having a problem with hiring for our workforce? And this is based on 4-2 with some of the personnel items. Are you comfortable, Rick, with the pool of candidates? Or are we having? Do we have to start thinking about writing new job specs? Or,
well, it varies. It varies by job. No, I don't think we knew what you call job specs. Well, I guess what we would call position description. But
yeah.
It's tough because our structure is that of a governmental entity, but that's not our talent pool. Our talent pool are the large investor-owned electric systems around us, or in the case of water and sewer, I know that's not what you specifically asked about, but it's just as much a concern there. Larger municipal or private systems. And there's fewer people going into these fields, and it's harder to recruit them from others.
I was very impressed with the work that you and Tony did with setting up the I think one of the positions to an apprentice program. I think that's where I was getting where I was going with this line of questioning. That is, do we really have to start developing and cultivating
Well, the electric division has always had apprentice positions, apprentice linemen, apprentice electricians, and we developed one for meter technicians as well. Recently, Neil has hired some laborers in the water or sewer divisions. It escapes me which one right now, but the idea being that they would matriculate to, maintainers or operators
right
after a given amount of time.
Well, look, keep us informed. I mean, again, having a comprehensive program that, somewhat, I don't want to call cradle to grave, but the apprentice to a full-time position, I thought was a good way to address this problem.
Well, we agree, and we're trending in that direction.
Yeah.
And I just let me speak from the heart. I appreciate the question because it shows awareness and interest and concern. And we very much appreciate that from you gentlemen, because it can be a struggle here sometimes, dealing within the structure of our recruiting and hiring process. And so your collective interest and involvement is appreciated.
Rick, or through you, Mr. Chairman, I've got one other question, and if you don't have an answer, we can, maybe just let me know in the future here. But on 4-38, I just noticed a spike in the Algonquin gas hub, and I just noticed that spike on October 29, 30, 31. Do you have any recollection of what that gas spike was all about? We've been trending so low on gas, generally below $2. And then we've got that spike that nearly hit 7, and you've got the power following it. Maybe you know this, Tony, and if not, it's more of a curiosity question that based on.
I do not, Joel, but I will ask and find out.
Yeah, it just struck me. I mean, it really seemed to be too early for a cold snap and a regional problem. Problem with the cold snap, but when I see these things, the corresponding price of electricity going up, it makes me nervous. And that is, I know we are constrained with gas in the wintertime. So again, I'm not looking for a dissertation on this, but it just high level. I always have our fuel supply, and certainly we're at the end of the pipeline here in Connecticut.
Well, a question well asked is half answered, and it's easy to ask this question of Energy New England and Craig Keeney, and I'm sure I'll get a good answer. And also with respect to concerns about spikes in fuel prices. I mean, this is why we hedge, and we've got firm pricing for around 90% of our power.
Yep.
So.
And I'm going in the same place you are too. We've hedged, and you always want to make sure your hedging is worthwhile, justified, and based on some of these numbers here, I would very much agree with the hedging policy. Well, thank you, Tony.
Yeah, you hedge to avoid those price spikes. We don't beat the market by hedging, but what we do is ensure price stability and certainty.
That is what it's all about. Patrick, do you have anything, sir?
Yeah, just a couple of questions. And again, I echo what Joel said. It just high-level responses is fine. The first one relates to our cost of service study in electric. I looked at the timeline. Thank you very much for outlining the timing. And I was just wondering if you could backfill or forward fill some of the info in terms of when you think workshops are going to be, and when do you foresee that we are actually going to be in a position to vote on these new rates? And with that, footnote, or I guess buried as a footnote, is do you think that this time frame is a bit too compressed given this ongoing pandemic? And if not, great, but just if you could speak to that. Okay,
Patrick, Tony, I'm sorry to step on your toes, and we aren't even in the same room, but I've been through a few of these, and this is in a way your first rodeo, so I'll jump in if you don't mind. Yeah, Patrick, your questions about workshops are a good one. I suspect it will be in that February and March time frame.
Correct.
And I think it's doable that that all the pieces will come together in such a way that all the proper notices are filed in sufficient time that the rates can go into effect on July 1. I mean, there's a lot to do between now and then, but it is, this is largely a sort of sterile financial analysis. And I think it lends itself to work in this environment. There doesn't need to be a lot of face-to-face. with the consultant. It's just a lot of number crunching and them modeling our finances and our customer base.
Rick, is this the same expert we had, whatever that was, 3 years ago, 4 years ago?
No, when we bid this, we put a clause in there that ensured we would get a fresh set of eyes.
Got it. Okay, thanks. The second question, it just piqued my interest because I believe we had a budget amendment on this 4 or 5 weeks ago. We've got another budget amendment on it tonight, the pad mount transformer inspections. If you just for the record could just outline this focus on these pad mount transformers, what you're doing, why you're doing it, and just for the record, I think I understand it, but the importance of these inspections.
Sure. Tony, do you want to take a stab at that?
Sure. Yeah, I'd have to look back and see if there was in fact an amendment on that. I know we've been talking about it, and I've been putting it in the reports, just to inform you that one would be coming because of the inspection doing. We had to go out to bid and receive bid pricing, which we have done since the last meeting, and that's what the amendment. We needed those numbers to come to you with the amendment. Basically, I mean, we have a position for a distribution technician. They are responsible for doing all of our call before you digs, our one calls, and inspecting anytime we build a URD, an underground residential distribution, neighborhood. They inspect to make sure that it's built to our standards, as well as just perform inspections of our, pad mounted equipment. We had a gentleman that came to us with, 30 plus years of experience doing that was assigned to that position. And we started inspecting them and found that, there's a lot of them are due to corrosion issues. There's quite a few that have obsolete equipment, arresters lightning arresters that should have been taken out of service. And we have some that are weeping and leaking. And the idea is you want to start replacing these things and replace, finish the replacements before you get a failure. You don't want something to catastrophically fail. So we've prioritized them based on leaking, based on corrosion. There's safety issues with latches and hinges that are rotted. So the priority list is about 29 units, and then we'll go from there. And we haven't completed all the inspections, but we've gotten through probably, I'd say 75%.
Great, thanks. My final electric related question, and it's based on a constituent, a ratepayer, about the lighting, our street lights and the transformation to the LED lights. I see the numbers. When do you think the LED lights transition will be complete?
That's a great question. I think we're in just about year 3. I want to say that when I started here, we were probably 6 or so months behind, because I believe because of equipment delivery. And at the time, Rick, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought it was intended to be about a 4-year program. It's something that, within the next, I'd say 9 months, we can look at just going out and blitzing the system and wrapping it up. The guidance that I was given, and I believe came down from the town, was that, we run the HPS, the high pressure sodium bulbs, to failure. And that's basically what we've been doing is, we go out and inspect, we get phone calls, we get lists from the police department, from residents calling in, and inspections that, we do on our own, especially around Halloween and the holidays. And that's how we come up with a list of what we go out and either repair or replace. But yeah, I mean, I think we will get to a point where we can come to you and say, hey, we have, 1,000 left to do. Do you want us to just go out there and replace them, or do we continue to wait to, run them to failure?
Yeah, Tony, I think you're right about that. I think the plan was that the anticipation was that it would take 5-ish years for all of the then existing units for the bulbs to age and fail and result in a service call that would have normally just been a bulb replacement, but now would be a light replacement. And I think we are ending year 3 of a large effort to accomplish that. So if left to its own, I think it would take every bit of 2 more full budget years. As Tony correctly pointed out, we may reach a point where the remaining units are of a quantity where it just seems to make sense operationally and aesthetically to just go find all of the remaining high pressure sodiums and just take them out even pre-failure and replace them with LEDs and be done with it.
And I wasn't correct. There was one other question, just note from the first meeting that we may have had this month. And that is, we have over the last 3 years had a workshop with our what I'll call electric consultants, our market consultants. And I know we didn't do that this year, and there could be a lot of great explanations why. But as we progress through the first quarter of 2021, I would just propose to my co-commissioners that we sort of contemplate a virtual workshop on energy issues like we've done over the last couple of years, 3 years. This would have been our 4th anniversary. I think we should do it. And that's all I have on electric.
Okay. Couple on my part. Firstly, Tony, with regard to sys operator, the really experienced guy that we thought we had coming in is the one I'm assuming that is not going to be coming in.
Well, we had 2
Right.
that were very experienced. One is still in the conditional offer process where they're just doing all the background checks, and then he still needs to be scheduled for a physical and a drug screening, which are typical. It's the process through HR. The other individual, who was also a qualified switcher, he informed us during his interview, when we asked the question, why are you looking, that depending on a contract settlement at his current employer, would potentially make or break his decision. When we extended the offer to him, the contract had settled, and they ended up getting what they were asking for, which was there's some language in the contract from his current employer that now allows them to begin collecting their pension at age 60 and continue to work up until age 65, but no longer. So that essentially they're able to double dip where they are. And, that's something that can hurt us a little bit from our neighboring utilities if they both do that, because, there'll be no reason for them to leave. Now, prior to this, they would leave so they could collect their pension and double dip here for 5 years. But now there's really no incentive for them to leave what they know and learn something new, or, build new relationships with new workers. And so.
Okay. All right. Quick comment, taking a look at purchase power. I think it's the first time that I have seen that the average hedge costs and the average total volume costs were identical. 39.
Yeah, and you're right, Bob, and that is eye-catching. And we asked about that, and I asked both Energy New England and Craig Keeney to check the math and run the numbers, and they both assured me that yes, it's just a numerical coincidence, but both those values are correct. They're derived separately, but they arrived at the same value.
No, I just, as I say, I just find it interesting. It's the first time I have seen that in the 5+
Yeah.
years that we've been doing it.
Yeah.
Comment I'd like to make to Brian. Brian, an extremely good, maybe a lot better than good, excellent report that you did for electric here. Other than that, congratulations on being able to get the water sewer job. We sure are going to miss you in the on the electric side, but certainly wish you nothing but the best, having the opportunity to learn a lot of new stuff, which I'm sure you will come up to speed on very quickly based on what I know of you in the past here, on the electric side of the house. So the best to you on that. And as I say, great report.
Thank you very much. Looking forward to the opportunity over at Water Sewer.
I hope so.
It's important. It's important to note that Tony and Neil will be sharing custody for a time. In fact,
Yeah,
there was talk of a daily ceremony of handing him off at the back gate here once a day. But we haven't devolved to that level yet, but we may.
Congratulations on the move, Brian. And I have a question on water sewer. Neil, you could chide me publicly for not asking this question in the 40 or so meetings that Bill Phelan and I were in together. You feel free. But as I was looking through your quarter numbers, quarter ending for both September and water and sewer, I note the big variance between budget and actual, and I'm just assuming that those budget numbers are annualized. And I'm wondering if when we close out the quarter, if we could have the budget for the quarter versus the budget for annualized. I think it would provide a better comparison. And maybe that we've got Brian working over there. Maybe you could task him to doing that when he gets there.
Neil, you're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. We can certainly take a look at that operationally. On the operating side of the financials, it will be very difficult on the capital side of the financials because most of our capital expenditures, as you know, are really based in the fourth quarter or the first quarter of the subsequent year.
Yeah,
But
no,
Brian,
I definitely get that. Definitely get that. And I guess the thing that screamed out at me was operating revenue and expenses.
Yeah, we can certainly take a look at that, and we can take a look at what's driving that difference. I think, initially one of it would be labor, so wages, salaries, and benefits from unfilled positions. When we budget in both water and sewer, we budget for 100% staffing. So it also depends on, we make a big nitrogen payment at the end of the fiscal year. So I would have to drill down a little further into the budget to get back to you on that one.
Okay. Oh, absolutely. Thank you. Nothing further, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Comment I would make, and this is with regard to water sewer, Neil. This is under personnel there, the maintainer 2 vacancy. 2+ months to go, and this has nothing to do with you here, I don't believe, but 2+ months to get a list from HR. We posted it, I think, back in July, closed in August, and finally the screening exam was November 20th. I realize the pandemic may have had some impact, but that just seems like quite a spread.
Correct, and unfortunately with the process, I'm not surprised by that delay. The average time to fill a position is approximately 7 months.
Not good, as far as I'm concerned. Okay. You know,
Correct,
and
and
I-
that
you know, that's not directed, as you know, at you and your people. That is poor, as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, is there anything else anybody wants to ask with regard to water, sewer, or electric, or anything else with respect to the director's report? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the director's report, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, stands voted unanimously. Okay, next order of business, if we can take something quickly, because we've got. Why don't we move on to item number 5 at the moment, discussion on action, that would be budget amendment on that. Neil, if you would, take that, please.
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is a budget amendment for the Water Division, and it is to pay for a risk and resilience assessment and emergency response plan as required under the America's Water Infrastructure Act. So the Water Division was notified about these requirements subsequent to the fiscal year 20-21 budget being adopted. So the course of action at that time was to go forward with a classic Part A, Part B bid solicitation, put it out on the street, evaluate the bid, get an actual cost, and then come back to the Public Utilities Commission with a number and ask for the budget amendment. This is the first time the Water Division is undertaking this. It is per the requirements of the America's Water Infrastructure Act. So if we had put a price forward, it would have been tough to really hit it on the bullseye. So we'd rather go forward with the process and then get a guaranteed price for you. I will point out it is being assigned to outside services employed, which is account 923. And the reason that is because this is not assigned to a specific project. It is not assigned to a specific capital project. So in discussions with Larry Regan, who at the time was our assigned business manager, it's best on the operating side of the budget, and it is best towards outside services. Out of this, there may be future operating or capital projects, and at that time, then any follow-up projects would be assigned to either the operating side or the capital side. I will point out that Wallingford Water is not the only water utility in this position. Right after we posted our RFP, our request for proposal, Wyndham Waterworks also put their proposal out on the street as well, because our deadline for the risk and resilience assessment is June 30, 2021, and the emergency response plan is December 31, 2020. So 12 months away, but when we mapped it all out, we are right on schedule. So that is why we are in front of you this evening for the budget amendment. Let me just flip the page. Approximately, it's $42,900. So that includes the bid of $38,970 plus a 10% contingency. There were 8 bidders to the project, and subsequently, the bidder with the $38,970 was one of the top on the qualitative portion. So we feel we do have a good respondent as well. So with that, I'll answer any questions if you have them.
Neil, this is Rick. I just want to clarify something I think I heard you say. The study or the requirements of the Act say that this study has to be done by December of this year or next year?
Yeah, so there's 2 parts. So the risk and resilience aspect, the risk and resilience assessment is due June 30, 2021, and then the emergency response is December 31, 2021.
Okay. Okay. Yes, it was the December date. I wanted to clarify it was December of next year, not this year. Thank you.
Correct.
Okay. Patrick or Joel, any questions on this before I ask for a motion?
I think this is neat. This provides direct value. It's needed to confirm public safety, the water supply, treatment, distribution, natural hazards, resiliency. I think this is a good investment, and it's a required investment. So I will be voting yes on this.
Yeah, this is Patrick. I echo Joel. I do note that that there's no reference about us being reimbursed by this mandate. So this is an unfunded mandate. Neil?
Correct.
Yeah. Unfortunate. Neil, just one quick educational question for me on page 5.4. And I looked through your memo, but I couldn't find it, but it's clear I could have missed it. The raw score. You got the raw score, you got the technical score, and then you got your cost score and the composite score. What's the raw score?
So in the request for proposal, we actually have a grading criteria. So different items and how much each of those items is worth. We have a 3-person review team, and so they review them individually. They review each proposal individually. They score each proposal individually, and then they come up with a group score. So how we get the technical score, that second column there. So for the raw score, you look at the second one down, environmental partners had the highest raw score at 84.2. So everyone's raw score is divided by the 84.2 with a maximum technical score of 50 points. So it's ratioed on the highest score.
Interesting. Okay.
The cost is then ratioed with the denominator being the lowest cost. You add the technical score plus the cost score, and that is your composite score with a 100 points maximum. So if you have the highest raw score and the lowest cost score, then you will max out at 100 points.
Okay, thank you. I'm prepared to make a motion, Mr. Chairman, but you may have questions.
If you would, please, Patrick.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion to approve the November 25th budget amendment regarding outside services for the reasons stated in Mr. Lake's November 25th memo and for the reasons stated on the record tonight.
Is there a second? I think I saw you shaking your head. I didn't hear it, Joel, but okay. All right.
Second.
Any additional comments with regard to the motion?
None.
Pardon?
I have none.
Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor of Mr. Brony's motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Voted unanimously. Next order of business would be public question and answer period. Are there any questions from the public? Yes, Adelheid.
Yes, please. Good
If you
evening,
would
everybody.
identify yourself for the sake of the secretary, please.
Sure. Adelheid Koopfer, 35 Woodfield Tree Road. I just wanted to make a very quick note, but heartfelt, and thank both divisions for keeping electric and water running in this turbulent year and throughout all the changes that this brought. And the other note, thank you to all, to the entire divisions and staff and everybody. And the other, I am really curious and look forward to hear about the electric charging pilot and the voluntary green rate later on, I guess. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Hearing none, then I will close the question and answer period. I do have a question. We've got one phone-in caller here, and then there's Scott S. Is there anybody, are either of you from Toyota Oakdale? Because if so, I would move that item up on the agenda. Apparently not. In that case, then we will continue on with the agenda. That would be going to item number 6. This is a sewer division budget with respect to communication equipment. Neil, your baby again.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is a budget amendment for the wastewater pump station SCADA project. So we have 12 wastewater pump stations in the sanitary sewer collection system. Currently, none of these pump stations have SCADA at them. So essentially, we are running these 12 stations blind. If we do not know the flow rate, we do not, if there is an alarm at any pump station, we need to send 1 or 2 staff members out to investigate and evaluate before we can even begin to have a response. So this project was initiated in budget year 2012, 2013. Took a while, but we did complete the specifications and the drawings. We put it out to bid. There were 5 bidders. The bids ranged from $580,201 to $765,572. So we did perform a evaluation of the lowest bidder. They are the lowest responsible bidder. So taking a look at our budget for this project, we do have a shortfall of $251,000 in order to move forward with this project. So the proposed budget amendment would be to move money from retained earnings of $251,000 in the present, knowing that June 30, 2021, we will have leftover design money from AECOM for the tertiary phosphate upgrades of approximately $550,000. So essentially, we are borrowing against a future deposit against retained earnings. We need to do this because it's a capital project, and in different funding years, you can't move money from one capital project to another capital project unless it is the same fiscal year. So we're basically using the retained earnings as a clearinghouse. So that is the financial side of the house. Commissioner Reinbold did ask a question about some of the mechanics and the processes. Basically, what value does this provide to the sewer division? So very late this afternoon, I did forward a document out to the commission. I will review a couple of the salient points right through it. And we kind of approach this in 2 different lenses. What is strict wastewater pump station operation, and what is the connectivity to the new tertiary phosphorus program? So I'll take just a few moments. Strictly from an operational perspective, calculate flows through each wastewater pump station. Data acquisition regarding the pumps. Is the pump losing efficiency and therefore running more hours or harder, leading to increased wear and tear? Right now, the only aspect we have of when a pump fails is when it stops working and it's an emergency situation. As I mentioned, when our maintenance repair technicians go out to the pump stations for an alarm, they have no idea what is causing the alarm. Is it a simple alarm, or is the pump station itself flooding out because we have a high water situation? And the plan is to add additional alarms at each wastewater pump station, including a flooded building, smoke detection, as well as entry. So we looked at it strictly from an operational standpoint, and then we looked at the connectivity with the tertiary phosphorus project, and specifically the SCADA that's being put in there. And I'm going to split this a little bit. So, and I'm going to get a little granular here, but I think it's important. So by relaying the flow data from each of the pump stations back to the wastewater treatment plant, this will allow the wastewater treatment plant to adjust the primary and secondary treatment processes to remove phosphorus and nitrogen. You may recall one of the best things we can do for our tertiary phosphorus treatment is to lower and knock down the phosphorus and nitrogen before it gets there. Poor analogy, but I'll use it, is you use better ingredients, you get a better, you get a better recipe. We can knock down the phosphorus and the nitrogen before our tertiary treatment, then we can use less chemicals, less energy on our tertiary phosphorus treatment. The other aspect too is remember, we saw this Saturday, is we have 2 trains for the AquaFlow system. They both can handle, each train can handle, in an optimum situation, 10 million gallons per day at a flow rate. They can go higher than that when we do go over 20 million gallons. But relaying the flow data from the wastewater pump station ahead to the wastewater treatment plant, especially during our precipitation event, a short burst of rain, we can begin to activate that second train of the AquaFlow treatment system. Now, they do come on fairly quickly, but what we're looking here is that it will help us ensure that we meet our permit, because it's that aspect at the beginning where we may not have the full treatment. So, and then overall, at the bottom of the document, I did put 3 checkpoints. Specific alarms and real-time views into operations can prevent small problems from becoming bigger issues and can speed restoration time. We can use a more systematic approach to preventative maintenance. Right now, we are budgeting our operations based on when a pump fails, or basically on when our great staff feels a pump is worn out. But we don't have the pure analytical data to back that up. And then really coordinate flow data between the pump stations and the wastewater treatment plants. So those are some highlights. I know we got very dense and granular, but I'll ask any questions. Again, this is a project that has been on the books for a long time. And the point of using the remaining dollars from the AECOM design was not to use new money in a sense. The AECOM design was budgeted at $3.4 million. That $3.4 million was included in the rate study. So this money has already been accounted for in the rate study and in the next 4-year rate.
Gentlemen, either of you have any comments you would like to make? Yes, Joe.
I've got some questions. Neil, what happens to the 550, I think it's 555, the leftover AECOM funds, if this does not go forward? Where does that go? Does that essentially get
All
return?
of it would go to retained earnings.
Right. All right. So this isn't really free money. I mean, it goes back into the rate base.
Correct.
So another question, Neil, and again, you've outlined this very, very nicely. Thank you. The need of it, and let me ask you this: how much of this need is theoretical? That is, you would be able to adjust flow. You would be with the SCADA from the pumping stations to the wastewater treatment works. How much of this is theoretical, and how much of this really does turn into maybe not real-time operation, but close to real-time operation? That is, the operators at the wastewater treatment works plant would, in fact, start making fine-tuned adjustments to chemicals, flow rates, pumping, things that would actually save us money. And what I'm trying to get to is justification of this budget item, where we've done without it for several years. So now the question is, do we really need it? Or is this just a very good thing? I'm not going to argue it's a good thing, but is it needed? Is it needed for public health? Is it needed for public safety? Or is it needed for fiscal justification? We will be able to save overall the cost of this system via cost savings at the wastewater treatment works.
So, it is a good project. I don't think I would be in a position to assign a dollar value for chemicals saved, labor reduced. And you're right, we have been operating 12 pump stations blind for decades. Where is this going? Honestly, this was a legacy program I inherited when I started in 2016. I was very surprised that in the 4 years between it was budgeted and when I arrived in 2016 that it was not accomplished. I think we've discussed that. My task put forward by the former director was to move this forward. Obviously, 9 months after I started, a big project landed on my lap. So we have been moving this forward. I am not, this is a nice project. This is a great project to have. I can't answer, is it going to save us? I think the question, if I read the question is you're asking, what is the return on, what is the return on our investment?
Somewhat, right. Either that or is it required for public health, public safety? Is it required health, safety, or fiscal return?
Correct. And I'll say that we have been operating the pump stations well, but again, how well? They're functioning. When they break, we fix them, but could we be doing that better? Should we have a more formal preventative maintenance program?
Let me ask you one more question, and then I'd like to hear from my fellow commissioners. You've indicated that when the alarms, and you have nicely said you put in additional alarms and monitoring equipment, but to the extent that you now have to send someone out to those pumping stations when you get an alarm, what the problem is, what is the nature of the alarm? Would you still do that with the SCADA? So the SCADA is set up, you get an alarm. Do you start making adjustments, using your terms, blind, except for the RF data that comes in, or do you still send someone out there to double check the system?
It would, so 2 items. I think we would have to become familiar with what the alarm is. And the second aspect is we would need to decide how important that alarm is. Is it a high level alarm where something has really gone wrong, or is it simply just a sensor alarm where we might be able to wait to the next shift, or we might, part of that is being able to triage it a little remotely.
Okay. Neil, I said that was my last question, but I did want to, and you and I have had this conversation, and Mr. Chairman, please stop me. But I asked you a question earlier, I think when we did the review of the wastewater treatment works on, I think it was Saturday morning. And my question to you is, I'll ask it again for the record. The RF system, the radio frequency system, you're tying in, you're using some frequencies that are available out of the FCC. Is there other technology that might be as effective or maybe nearly effective, but at a cost savings? Is there something else we could use? The cable, the phone, cellular, RF frequency. And I ask this for no other reason than, I don't know the current state of the art of the technology. And two, I'm struggling with the cost here, especially, knowing that we are going to have a rate increase for the sewage treatment works because of the mandated change to the facility. The timing isn't great here. We're going to the well again, to some extent, to put in another, over $500,000. It was like 786. So, I'm trying to whittle that number down one way or the other. Is there a technology, a different technology that would allow us to do the monitoring that still would provide us with state-of-the-art results or state-of-the-art data collection and use?
Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, I'm saying that you're aware of. So, I'm not looking for the MIT dissertation here on, what's available, but, based on, your good knowledge of what's out there. Is this the system? People are still using RF, a SCADA system. And, per my comment on Saturday, geez, I can monitor my house. In effect, if you saw my computer go on here, you saw a picture of my office in Hartford on the screen until I turned off the video. So, I can monitor my office as I sit here and turn it on for you, and you can see what my office looks like. And it's, by the magic of a pretty inexpensive system that's just available via the cell and the cell system. So my question is, other technological alternatives that can save us on some of these costs?
So I talked to Dan Sullivan, the sewer superintendent, and I just had an anecdotal conversation with him earlier this week. And so the radio frequency study was actually the only task that was completed in the 4 years that this was on the budget before I got there. And as I've stated, we use radio frequency for the water division SCADA project. It's a technology we know. It's a technology we're comfortable with, and it's a technology that we can repair and fix on our own. I did talk to Mr. Sullivan about going with some other technologies, including cellular or hardwired, and the response I got back was both of those would be more expensive, particularly both at each of the 12 pump stations, as well as at the wastewater treatment plant itself. And I also do want to point out, for the commission, this project, based on when it was originally initiated in 2012, 2013 fiscal year, we had two servers at the wastewater treatment plant. We had multiple monitors at the wastewater treatment plant. Those have subsequently been removed from this project, and they were placed in the upgrades project because the upgrades project has a grant component to it. So that was another financial move because of the timing. And I agree, this isn't the best timing. But, again, it's a recommendation from the sewer division, and we will abide by the vote of the Public Utilities Commission.
Thank you, Neil, for all this excellent background information.
Patrick, do you have anything?
Yeah, I do. Just a couple questions. And again, I'm mindful of the commentary in the director's report by members of the commission earlier tonight about how we've got some headcount issues that are affecting all of the divisions. And I'm looking at this as one mechanism to, and to use Neil's word, triage an issue with not necessarily using manpower to do it. I also was, it was nice to see that the upgrades, this project will interface well with the UPCF upgrades project. I mean, same servers, same desktop, same terminals, and it sounds like the same person monitoring all of them. So the question that I have for you, Neil, is why can't, this thing has been on the books, unfortunately, and I chuckled when you mentioned the fact that this has been was thrown on your desk and it's been around for a long, long time. Why can't we just do this as part of our budget process in 2021? Well, why do we have to do this now?
We certainly can wait. So the bids at that point will expire. So we certainly do risk, and the bids can go either way. The bids could go up just because of cost of living allowance, or the bids could get a little tighter because the same bidders could see what each other have bid and basically sharpen their pencils. We certainly can wait for fiscal year 21-22. I think in one respect, you would be moving the $550,000 as of June 30, and then as of July 1, you would be moving the $251,000 plus or minus back out of it. So it would, and I'm not arguing against you, Mr. Burney. I would just, from a financial mechanism standpoint, that those would be the pen strokes there.
Yeah, I hear you. I have nothing further.
Yeah, had this been done a number of years ago, we would have been using point-to-point circuits, coming in from each of the 12 pump stations. So that I'm assuming that your operational costs, if we were using data circuits from the phone company, would end up being significantly greater than what the operational cost would be now using radio, and probably less costly than using a cell service, I would assume. Am I correct in my assumptions on that?
That is not my wheelhouse, so I am just going to sidestep that one, Mr. Beaumont. I'll stick to water and sewer. I will stay away from technology.
Yeah, excuse me, Bob. Bob, this is Rick. I don't know if this will help or not, but I would note that the electric division has SCADA, same acronyms, monitoring its 3 substations remotely and bringing information back into the office building here. And they use, now the one that's right next door does use fiber optic running underground and coming over into the building because it is so close.
Correct.
But the other 2 do talk to, that we use radio between them and a receiver on top of town hall, and then there is a fiber that runs from town hall underground through electric division conduits back to the building, and that's how the SCADA works. And I think the important thing to keep in mind here, since this is all operational data, it's not just gathering information. I mean, at least for electric division, this may not be analogous for sewer, but commands can be sent out over them in addition to data coming back. Now, that's not the intent of this sewer project, but the point is that by doing something like radio, the utility controls the communications medium. And if something goes wrong, it fixes it itself. It doesn't have to wait for another vendor or entity to make a repair so that the data comes back.
Right.
I can say with total sincerity that electric division struggles with some meters that it reads via phone lines because sometimes the phone isn't available to read the meter. And we don't control that. We have to ask for that to be explored and restored. So I think that's the reason there. Getting into the idea of, yes, have we operated without this? Sure, but this is, I don't want to say state of the art because that has certain other connotations, but this is the way sewer is done and operated typically in this day and age. And to not have this information from the field is somewhat behind the times. And it's the sort of thing that the sewer division ought to have So it has, quite frankly, 21st century quality operational data to able to perform its job in a 21st century manner.
I understand.
That has something to do with the timing of the original project, and it's unfortunate that it languished, but it did, and Neil has done a good job of revitalizing it.
No, using radio, I think my personal opinion is fine. I have no problem with that whatsoever. And I would think that the operational costs would be less than having a whole batch of point-to-point circuits, which is what we would have used back in the days when I worked with the phone company. That was really, as much as anything else, the reason I mentioned it, Rick, was that is the way it would have been done 20 years ago or more. Today, you use radio, and I think certainly we've had experience of that on both the water side and
that's the other thing too, is that we have people in our own support vendors that, just as the electric division, when there's problems with SCADA, they know how to go about getting it back. So would the sewer division.
Okay. All right. Any other comments or questions, gentlemen? If not, is there a motion to make a budget amendment on this item?
Mr. Chairman, before I make a budget, I mean, Mr. Reinbold raised some great points, and I just want to pose a tough question to you, Mr. Commissioner. What do you have any sort of workarounds to this? Any ideas as to a way to assuage the fiscal concerns that you have on this project?
Patrick, is that directed to me?
Yeah. Yes.
I'm not inclined to vote in favor of this. I would be inclined to table. I'm not making that motion, but to get more information and/or to denial without prejudice, to take another look at it at a time when we're more comfortable with the budget with the entire water sewer division. Now, I do recognize, and I do very much appreciate the fact that we're able to maybe move some of the funding over from AECom. I do appreciate the 37.8 cost share from, I'm assuming it's DEEP and/or Clean Water Act. But I think these will, I'm not looking to move into this just because we have that 37.8% coupon. So I'm inclined to wait on it. Not that I'm putting the burden on Neil, but it's bad timing. We're asking our customer to make sacrifices in how they pay for their sewer service, the wastewater treatment. And here we come in with another $750,000 for something that I'm trying to balance against. Is it absolutely needed for public health? Is it absolutely needed for public safety? Is it absolutely justified? And that is, we'll get a cost saving out of it, whether it's 5 years, 10 years, or even 20 years. I'm having a hard time justifying any and all of those. And also, my concern is this starts another ramp up of more costs.
Neil, this is Rick. I have a question.
Go ahead.
Roughly 2/3 of this is already in the budget, correct?
So the low bid was $580,000. If and you add a contingency to that,
Okay.
and then what we are what we need to make the bid whole would be $251,000.
Understood. How
The
is
5%.
this, I know the recently completed water and sewer rate studies looked hard at future capital expenses. Is this included in that?
Well, the current monies are already have already been allocated. It's been a capital carry. It's been an automatic capital carry forward since 2012. And
Right.
so, so that
What
money.
what I'm driving at is to understand that doing this project or not, my understanding, it won't really put a lot of pressure on rates. The rates are already structured around it. And the rates will either pay for this or collect monies that won't have a place to go, and so it will just build up retained earnings.
That is correct.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'm prepared to make a motion.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, for the reasons stated on the record tonight, I make a motion to deny the budget amendment without prejudice to renew the budget amendment at a future date.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any additional discussion, gentlemen?
Yeah, yes, I do. Discussion. Neil, thank you for both the initial memo and the information that you provided, as well as the backup documentation that you provided earlier today. It informed me. Ultimately, this may be the way we go, but I was persuaded by the advocacy of Mr. Reinbold and the thoughtfulness of his comments.
Okay. Question I would ask then, you're looking to deny it at this point. What additional information is required to have it reconsidered? And that's from either one of you. Patrick, I know you're ready at this point to say something.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think the timing is right. And at this juncture, maybe we could take this back up during our 2021, 2022 budget cycle. But I don't have a bright line date to utilize for purposes of renewing the issue.
Joel, do you have any comments on the motion?
I'm fine with Patrick's comment. I'm also willing to accept information that Neil can bring forward again. If and when it becomes urgent requirement for public health safety. Will this be a requirement of Clean Water Act? Will this become, not unlike, will it become a requirement for public health safety, and or there are alternatives, and or just as you said, sharp pencils with the budget? How can we bring this back down? So I'll look at cost and mandates, or more compelling reasons for protection of public health safety.
All right.
Okay.
Neil, I have a question, Neil, and that is the $358,000 that is available in the account to go ahead and take care of this currently. Granted, 251 short of what the bid came in. The question I have on that is that money, when that money was that originally allocated back in 2012, and has that
Correct.
been then carried?
Correct. In 2012, 2013, the sewer division basically put a swag and just put $500,000 towards the project.
Mm-hmm. All right. if you take a look at that, then if we figured it was a $500,000 project at that point 8 years ago, the fact that it now ends up being 609,000 after a period of 8 years having elapsed, my personal opinion is that may not be that bad of an escalator given that period of time. I'm not saying, less is better, that's fine, but I thought the bulk of the money had been, set aside at that point in time.
Certainly, and I will be upfront. Is one discussion I've already had with Sewer Division leadership is if we are even going to bring this forward again to the Public Utilities Commission after tonight. We have a massive wastewater treatment plant project ongoing. Staff is very tight. We look at staffing. We have 4 maintenance repair technicians. They're responsible for the wastewater pump stations. We currently have 2 employees in that position. So Dan Sullivan, Carrie Strout, the assistant superintendent, and I are going to have a robust discussion on whether we want to pursue this legacy project at this time, cognizant of the Public Utility Commission's budget concerns, as well as the ongoing construction and our operational concerns. As I said to Joel, this is a good project. It is a nice project, but we are certainly not going to fall on the sword for this.
I think Patrick made the motion. It was a denial without prejudice, and I very much is if this comes before us again with new information, I'll be very open-minded to consider it, to reconsider.
Correct, and I'm certainly not trying to box the Public Utilities Commission in or a threat, but as a general manager, I need to evaluate financial, staffing, and administration. I think it's good that Dan Sullivan, Carrie Strout, and I can have an honest go, no-go decision on this legacy project.
Very good.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm inclined to vote against the motion, but so that's just as an FYI, gentlemen. All right, I will call for a vote. All those in favor of Mr. Bernie's motion to deny this, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That would be 2. And then all those opposed, aye. The motion carries 2-1. Okay. Next order of business, then we will move on. We've got the wastewater pollution control facility update. We have your written one that was sent out earlier this afternoon. Neil, you want to highlight some of that? Please do so.
Certainly. So we begin at the tertiary phosphorus building. The formwork and support system for the concrete roof slabs and the beams have been removed. The contractor is currently performing what we call rubbing or finishing of the concrete, particularly the exposed concrete within the interior of the building. And the area surrounding the TPB has been backfilled for ease of equipment and people movement. A portion of that will be excavated when we do put the underground piping in the future. Moving over to the UV disinfection posturation building, the concrete equipment pads in the UV portion of the building for the electrical components as well as the post-aeration blowers are complete. The UV equipment and the post-aeration blowers in their wooden shipping boxes have been placed in the UV building for future installation. And the UV equipment is expected to be installed within the next month. So that will be installed, but it will not be energized since there still is no electrical power to that building, but they will be placing it. Looking at the emergency generator building, the masonry subcontractor has completed installation of the block walls for the emergency generator building. The next step will be to install the roofing trusses followed by installation of the exterior brick. At the secondary pump station, the concrete for the base slab is complete, and the contractor is currently pouring concrete for the walls, for the 4 walls in sections. Because of the temperature, then the concrete pours are having thermal blankets installed over them. And at Main Street, the installation of the permanent rotating biological contractor electrical duct bank continues. And at this point, we are approximately 90% complete. Taking a look at the budget, there were no net change orders this past month invoiced by Nickerson. So our contract sum to date stands at $45,535,457.86. And there has been no contract extensions. So contract completion date remains February 2022.
Okay. Gentlemen, any comments or questions?
I have none.
Pleased with the progress and the diligent management from that Neil's been involved with. I think one of the reasons why we haven't seen extensions and cost overruns is because of Neil's very thoughtful management of this. So well received and well appreciated, Neil.
And I would be remiss if not noting in the record that we toured the facility on Saturday with Rick and Neil, and just so impressed with the amount of work that's been done in the short time since we were there last. And my fingers are crossed that the storm that we're going to have in the next couple of days is not going to set us back too much in terms of our timeline.
Comment I'd make is, I was going to say something similar, Patrick, but no, we had an excellent tour on Saturday. It certainly is, interesting and almost surprising how fast some of this stuff has come up, has grown. Not quite like mushroom, but it is coming along very nicely. I know there's an awful lot more that has to be done in the next year and a half, but it's I definitely was impressed with how far we have come here in the last few months. So with that in mind, that takes care of water sewer. Neil, you're welcome to say goodnight, or you're welcome to stay on board, whichever you would prefer, and we will move on to electric at this point.
Thank you. I think I will depart after last evening's late meeting.
Okay, I can appreciate that comment. And
I saw your line as well.
I think I really, you did an excellent job last night. But
Thank
anyway,
you.
we shall see what happens on that one. All right, moving onward, then we'll go to item number 8, which is this is with respect to discussion of possible action with respect to the Toyota Oakdale Theater late charges. Now,
Mr. Chairman, could you just canvass to see if someone is there, and if not, I'm going to make a motion to table this.
okay, is there anybody? We have 2 different individuals here. One is a caller, and the other is Scott S. I don't know who Scott is. If either of you is from Toyota Oakdale, I would have, speak up, please. I did ask before on that because I would have moved this item up earlier.
Mr. Chairman, having called this matter twice, one in the context of moving the agenda, I make a motion that we table this until our January meeting.
Okay, is there a second on that?
Second that.
Mr. Bernie, just item of clarification, you wish to table this until the next meeting?
The January meeting.
Well, we're probably scheduled for 2 in January.
Whatever meeting doesn't have the larger agenda on it.
That's probably the first one, January 5.
And January 5, that may end up being canceled anyway because of the fact that you're not going to have executive
Yeah.
secretaries around to go ahead and put the meeting
Together. You're right. You're right.
So realistically, it's probably going to be another 4 weeks, I would think.
January 19th.
Yeah,
Okay.
because one is out recovering from surgery and the other one is going to be on vacation between Christmas and New Year's. If I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, I mean, if you want to go ahead and, I mean, it can be put off. That may end up being that there'll be another late charge incurred in the interim. I don't know that that is the case. But you know, as you will, we have a motion on it to, table and a second for same. So without further ado, I will call for a vote on it. All those in favor of Mr. Bernie's motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That was an aye.
Aye, okay, I didn't hear anything. Okay, I'll say aye to go along with it at this point. All right, moving onward then, item number 9, discussion and action resolution with respect to the retirement of Bob Bowler. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Comment I'd like to make here, Bob is one of the 2 remaining system operators who we hired originally back in the 1980s to work at the power plant. He was a power plant guy, then did some of this, which is what part of their function was. But then all 5 of the men came over to be sys operators once we closed the Pierce power plant. From what I know of Bob, he not only is he very likable, very knowledgeable, he's been very good about training the newer people that have come along and has been a big help in many, many respects. So I'll pass it on to Tony and Rick. I just wanted to make the comment, just that he's a real decent guy and he's going to be sorely missed, in my opinion.
Yeah, Bob, I echo that. He has been, in the short time that I've known Bob, he's been very integral in training our new operators. And, you say that he's a very decent guy. Just recently, we have an operator that's currently in training and will not complete his 6-month training till sometime in February. And, with issues in scheduling and the number of qualified operators, Bob has graciously agreed actually to stay on for at least until that time. He had initially, put in his papers to retire, I believe, effective January 4th, but he'll be on until sometime in mid to late February. Again, because of the type of guy he is, he's always willing to help out. And so, I echo your words. He is an asset to this organization, and will be sorely missed.
So, in any event, I will call for a vote on the resolution. All those in favor of approving the resolution, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, stands voted unanimously. Next order of business then is a resolution with respect to retirement for Mr. Cosma. Is there a motion to approve, sir?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, there is a second by Mr. Reinbold. I probably should know him, but I cannot picture him, Tony.
Yeah, he's, again, like Bob, but he kind of, he comes in, he does his thing and goes. He's not, he's all about getting the job at hand done. doesn't, socialize too much. So he's not, kind of out there and in anybody's face. He's really just dedicated to coming in, getting his route, getting out, getting it done very efficiently. Again, this is somebody that will be missed. He knows, the territory very well, knows all the routes very well. He's trained others just recently, and we're going to miss him.
I 37 years. I don't think I've seen anyone retire with that many number of years of service in the town. And that's a lot of time.
Yeah.
1983, based on my math.
Yep.
Hey, you're right. You got that figured correctly. Now, there aren't too many that have worked much longer than that. That being said, when did Henry start?
Oh wow, he's
1961.
What
yeah,
year?
yeah, he's 76 years old, and he's been
Yeah,
here for a
He's in
long.
my wife's class.
Right, yeah.
What's his role?
He's
Customer
a
service.
senior customer service rep. Everybody in town knows Hank.
Wow.
Yep.
No, yeah, he's single, and this has been his.
This is
Life,
his family.
really.
This is his family, right?
Yeah, I mean yeah, he'll keep working, I am sure, until he passes, probably, and which is fine. I mean, Hank, nice guy, but that's the longest one we've had since a fellow by the name of Bill Hunt, who had worked here for 6 decades.
Wow.
So there have been some, but we haven't seen many of them, Patrick. That's for sure.
I'm certain that my dad, who's 83 years old and was a Wallingford police officer for 36 years, I think he still would be working if there wasn't a mandatory retirement provision in his contract. So
I
God bless
can
him.
appreciate that comment.
Yeah.
All right, well, all those in favor of approving the resolution, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye stands voted unanimously. Next order of business is item number 11, budget amendment with regard to transmission station equipment. Tony, if you would.
Right. Yeah. So this, I issued a memo to Rick dated December 8th, 2020. It's in your packets. We're looking for the amount of $146,000. And this is for substation relay upgrade projects that are necessary for NPCC Directory 1 compliance. NPCC issued this. There is a deadline for all utilities that fall, within their area to become compliant. It's basically for system reliability and resiliency on the transmission side. They're projects that, the transmission lines terminate in our substations, and we do in conjunction with Eversource, the relaying equipment has to be matched on both ends of the line in order for system protection. We budgeted for these projects this current fiscal year, and at the time, we didn't have an analogous estimate. It's something that we hadn't done in a significant amount of time. We had some capital carry forward dollars available, and basically estimated an additional $120,000 for this work. We are now at the point where we are completing the first of 3 of these projects, and have some actual dollars available to us, and we're just looking and forecasting what it's going to take us to complete all 3. And the $146,000 is what it'll take to do that.
All right, this is only on the transmission side, Tony?
This is transmission, yeah, it's transmission station equipment.
Okay. Joel, I think you were getting ready to go ahead and say something.
If I could just ask a couple very brief questions. How much of the work involves resources from Eversource from the High Line? I'm assuming the 115 kV lines, Tony. I mean, is this
It's relaying equipment, so it's not necessarily working on the transmission lines themselves. It's the protective relaying in place for those lines
on our substations?
in our substation and on their end. So they're spending probably the same amount of money on their end. This is for the infrastructure upgrades within our substation control rooms, installing the relaying, the engineering, the protection setting, the testing associated with it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but based on the amount of power that we purchase that's moved into us through the transmission system, this would be critical for system reliability. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. These were identified as deficiencies through NPCC. And there's a directory of items that we have to be compliant with, and right now we're not.
Fine.
Okay. All right, is there a motion to approve the budget amendment?
Mr. Chairman, for the reasons stated in Mr. Bucieri's December 8th, 2020 memo was the reason stated on the record tonight. I make a motion to approve the budget amendment.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, there is a second by Mr. Reinbold. Any additional comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of Mr. Bernie's motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, stands voted unanimously. Okay, next order of business then will be item number 12, budget amendment, distribution line transformers. Tony, if you would.
Okay, and again, we talked briefly about this at the beginning of the meeting, but this is basically after going out to bid, initially performing the inspections and going out to bid, we have received bid pricing and estimated the amount to purchase the transformers for the 29 locations and ensure that we have enough available in stock future replacements and bring us back to our min levels. So the transfer, the total amount would be $320,000. That's for $101,000 for single phase pad mount, $193,000 for three phase pad mount transformers, and an additional $26,000 for pole mounted transformers.
Okay, are there any questions or yes, Joel?
Tony, how much of it is the transformer, both the single phase and the three phase, related to cooling oil leakage? Are they failing, or is this an ongoing maintenance, or is this the leakage problem that we've talked about in the past?
Well, we're seeing weeping. So I'd have to get back and look at, and I could probably give you a breakdown of the 29, how many of them are weeping versus issues with arresters versus issues with rotting or just unsafe, hinges rotting and things like that. Doing these before it becomes turns into a leak instead of a weep ends up saving us a significant amount of money. If it turns into a leak and gets into the soil, then you're talking an environmental where they have to come in, do an additional dig, an initial dig, send it out for sampling, and then potentially come back and continue to dig until there's no traces of oil. And you've seen some of and actually this will probably answer Joel's question. I believe we initially not Joel, Patrick's question. I believe we initially came to you with I don't know if it was an amendment or a transfer, but it was for environmental because of a leaking transformer. Doing these before they fail will save on the environmental side. It'll, be, potentially be better for reliability and safety as well.
Tony, would you agree that this work is necessary for safety and reliability, as you stated, but also for protection of environmental resources?
Correct.
I'm all set.
Yes.
I think
Mr. Chairman, I have no further questions.
Okay. Generally speaking, what is the life expectancy of these pad mounts?
I mean, they can go 40 years. I mean, it depends
What I was thinking.
where they are. I mean, if they're in an area where they're exposed to, salt and sand, in close proximity to the road with plows, obviously there's going to be an impact there. If they're out, 20, 30 feet off the road and elevated so the bases don't get wet, I mean, they could last a significant amount of time.
Another thing, Bob, to keep in mind is these things are exposed to, residential and commercial salting and maybe pesticides or fertilizers.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Is there a motion to make the budget amendment for account number 368?
Mr. Chairman, for the reasons stated in Mr. Bucieri's December 8th, 2020 memorandum, as well as the reasons stated on the record tonight, make a motion to approve the budget amendment.
Is there a second? There is a second by Mr. Reinbold. Any additional comments or questions? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of Mr. Burton's motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I think there was an aye. I think I saw your mouth move, Joe.
Aye, sorry.
Okay, that's okay. It is voted unanimous. Would you like to be moved up there while last to, by a couple?
I think that's a superb idea.
I probably should have done it before. In any event, item number 15, so that Walt get back to enjoying his semi-retirement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, and basically, this is strictly a discussion item here. Do you have any comments that you want to make? We have your letter certainly all. Have at it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to just explain through the memo. This change is more of a as the memo describes, a change in the way incentives are communicated to customers. As previously,
Excuse me, Walt. This
yes.
is Rick. Bob, what agenda item are we on?
Number 15.
Oh, 15.
Oh, 15. Well, Walt's involved in 13 as well.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well,
So
we started on 15, then we'll go back to 13. If that's, unless I have objections. No.
I just got confused. My audio is breaking up. It's hard for me to hear everything. So.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm having the same problem with audio. Is anyone else having problems with the audio?
Me
Yes.
too.
Does everybody who's not speaking have their phones or their computers on mute? That may have helped.
That may have helped. Yeah.
Thank you all.
Okay. Well, why don't we go on to 15 since we got started on that, then we'll go back
Okay.
to 13.
I decided to pursue this change in the change in process. It's not really a change in the way projects are analyzed or incentive levels. I think I'm just trying to streamline and make for the customer and for our trade allies a more streamlined approach when they apply for incentives, either for lighting or what I would call process electrical equipment, air compressors, refrigeration, and so forth. As you can see on the attachment, the original, the way we approach now with the letter of agreement is a pretty basic outline of regarding savings, available incentive, and any credits would go to the electric division. I moved to it, and I'm proposing, or I'm looking for the commission's.
Well, remember, this, Mr. Chairman, this is for information only. We just wanted to make the commission aware of this.
I
You
understand
folks
that.
are
Yeah.
ambassadors in the community, and this is important to our CNI customers. And so we wanted the commission to be fully aware of this change in process.
Okay. All right, very good, Rick. Thank you.
I guess really I should ask the commission whether any of the commissioners have any questions on this format, and whether it looking at it, if there's any questions or issues that may help me perhaps streamline anything that I haven't outlined here in the incentive applications.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Walt, what was the need for this? Was it really to just firm up the commitment that once you began work on it, that the customer would follow through? Was that the genesis of this, or?
I was looking for a couple on the letter of agreement. There's a number of things that are said or mentioned verbally. For example, who would be the incentive recipient? And what I tried to do in these incentive applications is have it basically in writing. Is I want the customer to understand if they are signing over the incentive, then they should check the box and put the signature in the appropriate place.
I'm fine with it, Walt, and if the intent of it seems to be coming right through here, so I don't have any comments, other than I like the proactive approach to let's firm it up before we have a problem. So good work, thanks. I don't have any. I like it, and I'm good with this.
Thank you.
The same thing here, Mr. Chair. I have no comments. I'm good with it. Thank you for bringing it up. And again, I said this before we went on the record. It's very nice to see a letter dated December 1st, 2020 from Walter. That's very nice.
Thank you.
Very fine. No, it's nice to see Walt. It's also nice to see the letter. I agree, Patrick. No, and I can only echo what Joel said. It's what I would anticipate knowing you. It's your normal proactive self trying to make things better for the operation. So certainly thank you with regard to that. And then we will move back then to item number 13, which I guess is also yours, Rick. If you want to kick that off, do so, and then we will continue from there.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. As I hope the commission would recall, quite some time ago, we brought through the commission a request for a bid waiver so that the electric division could ultimately purchase from Sweet Karma, was actually Geotab USA, technology and hardware, so that we could sort of measure and monitor and analyze the charging behavior of customers with electric vehicles and essentially at-home chargers. And it's taken a long time working with Geotab to craft the agreement in a manner that was satisfactory to both parties, but we have gotten there. And so what we're here tonight for is seeking the commission's approval to execute this agreement that has been reviewed by the law department and it looks good. That's an exact quote to them. This all finally came together when we finally got the lawyers on the phone with each other. Mr. Bernie, I'm sure, can appreciate that. Walter and I playing go-between was not working well. So we got the experts speaking with each other, and the sticking points were resolved very quickly. And so we have this now all right by everyone agreement for your consideration.
Okay. Yes, Patrick.
So two issues. Number one, let me just at a very high level, and this is just based on experience that one of my clients had signing an agreement similar to this, and I'll outline the issue, and then we're going to need to table this because I need you to go back to the Corporation Council and make sure what my concern is adequately addressed. So the issue that I'm referring to arises from section 6.6, which is the permitted intellectual property infringement claims. And I just want to make sure that when I read this provision 6.6, I walked away with this thought that this was that we're essentially covered so long as Fleet Karma is it has been vested with the rights. I'll use it, intellectual property rights or licensee rights to essentially embed some other party's intellectual property into what they're providing us. This section 6.6 in my mind covers that. But the issue that I'm spotting is what happens if Fleet Karma doesn't have, and it happens out there, and there's these patent trolls who are suing people, innocent third parties like the Wallingford Electric Division down the road, where Fleet Karma doesn't have proper authority to use certain intellectual property that they are letting us use as part of this contract. I don't see that full indemnification from Fleet Karma for what I'll call the unauthorized utilization of third-party intellectual property. And I just want to make sure, I didn't see it, and I appreciate Janice's looks good, and I think that's great. And I'm just probably a dummy and don't see it here, but I just want to make sure that is covered. And then the other issue that I've got.
Okay, excuse me, Patrick. But like I mentioned earlier, I'm not a lawyer. I just have to play one at work sometimes. Can I ask that offline you provide me with exactly the question you're asking so I can pass it on to the law department? Hello?
Yeah, I heard the question, Rick. I'm just thinking about it.
I heard a beep. I thought maybe I lost everybody.
Yeah. While I contemplate your question, let me raise the other issue that I'm advancing on behalf of our ratepayers, which is goes to the section 3.3, which is going to require us to go to New York to fight about this, and we're going to have to use New York law to fight about this. And it's not something that we usually have in our agreements. We always talk about having our agreements litigated in a state or federal court in Connecticut using Connecticut law. And that is an issue that want to take up and hopefully we can get resolved. It's an issue that I have.
And I'm sorry, Patrick, what section was that?
That's section 13.3.
Oh, 13. I'm sorry, I misheard you.
Yeah, I do think that we have previously tried to make sure that anything of that ilk would be within the jurisdiction of Connecticut law. And I think we've tried to do that previously on other contracts. So it probably is, to be consistent and maybe make life easier for us. That probably would be a very good idea.
Yeah, and Rick, to answer your first question, I will send you an email on the two issues that I've raised.
Excellent. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Patrick, thank you.
Well, then I guess you can just take no action.
Yeah, well, we don't have to go ahead and actually table this. We can just decide not to take any action and it'd be fine.
Yeah, and I guess for Mr. Chairman, just a quick question just for Walt. What is the timing? How far along are we to implement this service? Because we talked to you about this maybe 4 or 5 months ago, right? When we got when you requested the bid waiver. So how long after this contract is executed are we going to go live?
We were hoping, ideally, at the beginning of next year, to try to do some limited outreach to customers through, let's say, a bill insert or the newsletter.
All right, if we take this.
Excuse me, somebody's turning a lot of pages and they don't have mute on. Yeah, Walt just hit the nail on the head. And we didn't want to start marketing until we could know when we could mail devices to customers and get them signed up. So we haven't built that collateral yet because we don't know that timing because we don't have an agreement. So, but it's not like there's a requirement out there somewhere where we have to be done by someday. This is all stuff we want to do for ourselves so that we can properly monitor and, if need be, incentivize as a way of providing sort of soft control of charging activity.
All right, and just so the record is clear, I'm supportive of the concept and the services and the price of these in this contract. I've just got some concerns of the legal aspects of it. So maybe I'm going outside of what my purview should be. But so if to the extent you need me to say I'm ultimately going to approve this agreement once certain changes are made, if that gives you the license to start doing the back office stuff that you need to do. Obviously, I'm only one of three, but those are just my concerns. I just want you to know that I'm ultimately supportive of this of approving this agreement.
Well, thank you, Mr. Burney. That's good to know. But again, until we can place an order and know a delivery date, it's hard to plan much. So, but again, this is not a gotta do. This is a wanna do. So
This could be taken up here again. It could be on January 19th if we're already at that.
We don't need to say when. However long it takes us to ask and answer these questions, and then we'll come back as quickly as we can.
Okay. All right. Joel, any comments with regard to it?
I had the same concern that Patrick did regarding the New York courts. I would like, if we could have some kind of a preamble language that identifies the purpose, the objectives, the type of data we're looking to get, the kind of outcome we're looking to get. I mean, there's more information in your memo, Rick, than in the contract. So something to state the purpose and objective. The other thing
In the agreement. You'd like
That
that
would
in
not-
the agreement.
then all we have to do is perhaps reference the agreement and attach it, make it an attachment. But right now, I look at the contract is what we're signing. I don't see any of that information. So maybe it's a simple matter of putting the agreement in. The other thing, Rick, that I know we've talked.
Excuse me, Joel, but you've lost me. Can you contact me offline so I can better understand your concerns and your needs?
Yes. The other thing is the term and the compensation, the cost. None of that is in the contract, and my thought is that should be an attachment also.
Okay, is there anything else then that needs to be brought before us with regard to this item then? Both you, Patrick and Joel, both of you will get your information on your questions, et cetera, with, to Rick so that he can get that taken, get both sets of things taken care of. Ideally, we'll be able to have this come back to us a month from now. Quick comment I might make, I guess Elon Musk was saying within the last couple of days that he expects that the electric vehicles will eventually require almost double the capacity of what we have for generation in this country. That supposedly is something that he said within the last day or two. I don't know if you've, seeing your smile, Tony, I don't know if you heard that or not, but that is something I heard earlier today. Just as an FYI.
That'll impact transmission, that'll impact distribution, that'll impact substations. That's huge. And that's, I think the intent of this project, I know we were talking about scope and having it outlined. The original scope of it was presented and approved 4 or 5 months ago, just as a data collection pilot to identify and understand the habits of folks in our service territory that are charging these vehicles. That's basically what this is all about. And once we have enough data collected, then we'll determine, what, if anything, we need to do with, infrastructure or some type of program to charge off peak, things like that. But again, it's intended to be a data collection project at this point.
Yep, absolutely.
Mr. Chairman, just to add on to what you commented on with Elon Musk and his Teslas, I was working with the Connecticut DOT when they were seeking to bring in some electric buses. 12 buses coming in. I think they wanted to have 10 buses at one location. They're constrained on time because the buses have to be running all day long. They come in at night. They all have to get charged and charged hard all late night, early morning, and they all have to be ready for service at early in the morning. So the question then came down to how are you going to charge 10 buses? Now, these are buses, not cars. But I think just as Tony stated, the questions on the service drop, the service lines, the battery storage, generators, all those questions came up in terms of how will 10 buses get charged simultaneously. So if this is something to better understand how this is going to impact our system, we should be well aware. We should understand what the demands will be on the system. And for DOT, the Connecticut DOT, what they were finding out was the costs were going to be substantial, depending on the number of buses that would charge at a particular location simultaneously. So it was not insignificant.
No. I say, I thought that was relevant, just as an FYI. So
Yeah, I agree.
appreciate your attention on that. All right. In that case, then I guess we will wait. We will see about having this, once the information has gone into Rick, so that the rest of the information get back, the questions get answered. Then we will see about having it back on our agenda, hopefully 19th of January, possibly, and we'll go from there. With that in mind, then let's move on then to item number 14. This is with respect to the voluntary residential green energy program, which has been brought up in passing previously. Rick, I guess that is yours at this point.
Yes, I wanted to provide the commission with an update of where
Rick?
my efforts and thoughts are on this, and all of the information, or all the good information, I guess I should say, that I have on this, and see if the commission has any comments, directions, or
Can
questions.
you hear me now, Rick?
I hear you fine, Bob.
And I hear Rick okay.
Patrick, can we hear anybody?
Bob, I can hear you.
I'm good.
You can hear me?
Yes,
Okay.
Bob, did you not hear
I
me?
think Rick has been trying to speak, and I don't think we have not heard anything.
Rick, Rick,
I'm-
we hear Rick,
And Patrick, I'm not hearing you either.
right? But we hear you.
And it's not just my hearing aids. We have what?
Bob, we can hear you
We've
fine.
gone past the time. We've gone past the anticipated time for the meeting. Is what I'm hearing? No?
Here, let me see if I
No.
can.
Bob, we can hear you.
All right. I have a feeling this is going to get put off because we don't, unless somebody has a means.
Bob,
I can't hear anything. Well, that's good, I guess.
Well, I'm going to, how about this? If Bob can't hear us, how about if I step in and make a motion to
I
adjourn?
can vaguely hear Patrick through the phone here, but
yeah, Patrick, I've got Bob on my cell phone.
Oh,
I was
good.
wondering if maybe Patrick can chair the meeting from here on out.
well, that's fine too. What I can do is I'm going to drop out and I'm going to come back in and see if that works.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
So Patrick, you're on to chair it at the moment. I'll drop out and I'll come back.
Rick, if you could just walk
Thank you,
us through the memo dated November 24th, 2020 from Tim. And I'll be honest with you, there's a lot here and I haven't gone through it completely, but if you wanted to give a high level summary or discuss what you want to do
Well,
with this.
Yes, sir. That's what I tried to do with my December 10 memo, was summarize Tim's work and memo to me, and throw in a few thoughts of my own. He points out that there's, I think at one point he says, is it easy being green? Well, no, not really. And it, at some point we'll need to decide what that means. And, can it be any form of renewable energy, or not? Does it have to come with retirable Class 1 renewable energy certificates? So, it's important to note that the electric division is not subject to any sort of renewable portfolio standard, so we don't have a history of looking for this type of energy in and of itself. I also noted that it's Energy New England's estimate that probably about 13% of our energy is already derived from these sorts of sources, just because that's the mix that makes it into the what I'll call the generation stack, and is part of the market power that third parties agree to bring to us. And so what I'm looking for is maybe some next steps or some refined guidance from the commission. And it can just be conversational here. I don't think we need motions. I haven't asked for any. But I'm thinking that it would be that it has to, any such programs be based on real energy, not merely RECs. And we need to price it in such a way that there's no spillover to other customers. That if we don't get the energy purchase exactly right, if say we undersubscribe or oversubscribe, which we're bound to do, that no costs end up being borne by any customers that are not participants of the program. Those are the only lines I've been able to draw around the box so far. But if you think I have that much right, that would be helpful.
Rick, whatever happened, Rick, this is Joel, whatever happened to the initial thought of just having a voluntary or an option to purchase a REC, and it could be a Class 1 REC?
We could do that. Sure, we could.
I mean, I thought that's what we used to do. It's it may, I'm not quite sure, but I think it would minimize liability on our part. It would provide public customers an opportunity to do what they want to do. If they want to purchase RECs, they can do so, and it can be tied directly to that REC. We could do the Class 1 RECs, which, as you point out, are the wind, the solar, run-of-river hydro, fuel cells, waste heat recovery. There may be some other ones in there. Two are resource recovery, and I'm not sure how popular those would be. The RECs in the Class 3 are CHP or cogen. Industrial folks might have interest in those, but I guess philosophically, I would be interested to provide members of the public who wanted to increase their support for renewables to have that option, in addition to what we already do with interconnection and some of the net metering or the process for net metering. But here's what I don't want to do. I don't want to engage in a program that's going to cost, which will have cost to the rate base. I don't want to start having charges to people who either don't want to participate or can't participate for whatever reason. But I don't want to start ramping up the cost to them. And I say that because we do enjoy a low rate now. And it is one of the factors that separates, that keeps Wallingford's electric rates desirable for economic development, for institutional use and for public use, residential use. It's a huge value for people to pay lower cost for their energy. So I'm interested to see us hold the cost and not have it creep into the rate base. I do like the notion to have people who are interested in renewables, to have us facilitate it. Overall, I like the renewables. Overall, I think they're good. I think prices will drop, especially with economy of scale. But again, I don't want to have my decision force that on someone who may not want it. So that's my
Understand.
high level thinking, Rick. And
No.
again, initially when we talked about this, it might have been a month or two ago, I thought you were going in the direction of having an optional volunteer rec purchase program, which I thought might provide all those values. Bringing the renewables to members of the public without costing others.
Yeah, I agree, Patrick. Recs are the simplest way to do it.
Yeah,
The only challenge is educating the purchaser so that they understand they didn't really buy necessarily green energy. They just bought a marketable green attribute.
Right.
And basically what they agreed to do was fund at a higher than market level the renewable energy producer.
That's right.
And
Yeah, that's absolutely
as long as
the
they
case.
understand that's where their money is going and what it's going for, that's exactly what we did previously.
Correct.
Well, I'd be interested in seeing that, maybe dust it off and take a look at that. And moreover, again, I don't want to have a big administrative cost here either. I don't want to have a situation where we have a difficult time balancing what people want and what we purchase and getting stuck either buying too much and then having a cost overrun, or moreover, not buying enough and then having to respond to the public, why didn't we buy more power? So again, I think what I'm interested in, first and foremost, reliability. Second, I really want to keep the price in Wallingford's electric service as low as possible. And three, I do seek environmental performance. So to the extent that we can buy the cleanest power, and as you said, Rick, Connecticut has got very clean power now. It's very, very clean power. It's if you run some of the coefficients for some of the facilities, it's remarkable at how little difference it makes because Connecticut already has remarkably clean power. So nonetheless, for us to offer some Class 1 renewable via the REC program, as long as it doesn't cost other people who choose not to participate, as long as it doesn't cost them, I'm good. As long as it doesn't cost us administrative costs or present a liability, I like it more.
And I think all of that's
Yeah.
achievable.
Yeah, and this is what we talked about previously, and I'll go along 100% with what Joel just said. As far as under no circumstances do I want to see a spillover in cost to the other customers.
Well, I heard
I
that
don't wanna
message
see-
loud and clear. Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Well,
Yeah, I
I-
understood that earlier, but this has been helpful to me because I did not appreciate the commission's willingness to go along with a program based merely on RECs. And
Well, that's what I
like
thought.
said,
I thought that's where we were headed to begin with, but maybe.
I thought the instruction was to not do that and let you know what it would look like if it were truly energy based and still do those
Yeah,
other things.
that was, first of all, the commission didn't vote on it. We provided direction. And I was
Correct.
one person who said, I'm not, because RECs are a financial instrument. They're not the real deal. It's a product. Is there a way for us to understand what we can buy real time? And it sounds like I have not fully digested this memo, but it sounds like we're already buying 13% of our load that we purchase is already renewables. That's a much larger percentage than I understood it to be. and something that next time we need to articulate that. So, but I have nothing more to add than I was the guy sticking out about the whole non-rec issue. Bob and Joel I think we're pretty clear that recs we should be investigating them. But I have nothing more to add than what Joel has already stated.
Okay.
And so, is there anything else that anybody wants to discuss with regard to that? If not, we will go back and see what it looks like with the regs.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, this is Patrick Burney. Just what I have not fully digested this memo, and I apologize for that. And let me get back to Rick to the extent that I have any additional comments.
Okay, very good. Sounds good. All right, we will move on then to the next order of business, which is item number 16, discussion and possible action with respect to meeting schedule for 2021. We have that in our packet. It is set up, it's lined up beginning with January 5th, which is probably going to be problematic, but beginning with that, we'll assume that everything is going to be at, you could notice here that everything would be at the electric division.
Or another location or virtual. That's
Yeah, it
what's
could be,
different
yeah.
that's what's different, Mr. Chairman, is the language at the bottom of the page,
Okay,
which we believe addresses everything that was talked about at an earlier meeting.
right, which gives us flexibility to be able to do what we need to do. Okay.
Rick, I'm fine with this.
Okay,
You need a motion?
if I would like to have one, certainly.
I make a motion to approve the 2021 schedule of meetings.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, stands voting unanimously. All right, is there any other business to be brought before this body this evening?
Not by me, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
is there a second? Okay.
Second.
All those in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. We stand adjourned. One quick comment. Merry Christmas to one and all. May it be a safe and healthy holiday season. Happy New Year. And we'll see most of you anyway, post 2020. So,
Happy holidays to all. Thanks for everyone.
Yes.
Thanks,
Happy
everybody.
holidays. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks very
gentlemen.
much. Merry Christmas.
Yes, Merry Christmas, Bernadette. Thank you.